What's going on, everybody? My name is Nick, and welcome to another episode of Short Circuit Sports, the channel that brings you weekly major coverage of the sports world from a fan's perspective. That being said, we got a relatively decent-sized episode for you guys today. For starters, the Super Bowl has come and gone, which means that the NFL season is officially over. Now that I've had some time to process what actually happened in that game, you will get my thoughts on both teams and the highs and lows of that game, as well as my way too early thoughts, possibly predictions for next season. Moving on, we also got two updates from Major League Baseball. Number one, we got an update about Commissioner Rob Manfred and the possibility of him being out of baseball after his next contract is up. Stay tuned for that. And we also got a decent-sized update about the fiasco known as the Oakland Athletics relocation. I know that I've talked about it in a previous video, but this one kind of takes the cake in terms of the ridiculousness of this whole situation. And even Las Vegas might not want the Athletics after all. So stay tuned for that. And we got the NBA standings and the records for every team where they currently stand right now at the All-Star break. Some teams are higher than I expected. Some teams are much lower. So stay tuned for that. And normally I do not cover college basketball in relatively any aspect, but I do have a small segment about Caitlin Clark. For those of you that do not know, she is putting up historic numbers in what might very well be her final season at Iowa, and you'll just have to wait and see exactly what she has accomplished. Stay tuned for that. So for those of you that are not currently subscribed to this channel, please subscribe, like this episode, turn on your notifications, the whole thing would really help me out, would really help out the channel, and I would love to talk to more of you guys on a week-to-week basis. So without further introduction, stay plugged in, stay charged up, and let's get into it. So last Sunday, we got the Super Bowl rematch that I think a lot of us were expecting, but not really, between the San Francisco 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs, where the Chiefs pulled out a 25-22 win in overtime, cementing the third Super Bowl win for Patrick Mahomes. This was a relatively back and forth kind of game, but also a defensive stalemate in some aspects. The 49ers defense played a pretty decent game altogether, but were unable to hold Patrick Mahomes when it really counted. As well for the Kansas City Chiefs defense, who did a very, very good job at limiting Brock Purdy and allowing him to improvise, and basically made it a very kind of a one-dimensional game for the 49ers. I mean, Christian McCaffrey, running back for the Niners, did have a very kind of a historic day in Super Bowl history. He was the first person to ever have 80 yards rushing and 80 yards receiving in the same Super Bowl. Brock Purdy also played a pretty decent game. He was 23 of 38 for 255 yards and a touchdown, no interceptions. Patrick Mahomes, on the other hand, went off for 34 of 46, 333 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He did have an interception, but as you can see by the score, it didn't really matter. What was also weird about this game is that Patrick Mahomes was the run game for the Kansas City Chiefs. He led the team with 66 yards rushing. Isaiah Pacheco, who I thought could have been an X factor in this game, wasn't really anywhere to be found. Travis Kelce did have 93 yards receiving on 9 receptions, but this was the Patrick Mahomes show for the Chiefs, and basically the Chiefs looked at the Niners in crunch time and said, stop our quarterback, and the Niners couldn't do it. In a year where a lot of people, like myself, thought that the Chiefs were kind of an afterthought. They didn't have the same kind of talent on their team. Heck, this was a year where the Kansas City Chiefs had skill position issues from the start of the season. Number one overall receiver, Kadarius Toney, who everybody thought, okay, he's the new Tyreek Hill now that Tyreek's in Miami. Everybody's looking at him like, okay, he's going to be Mahomes' number one guy. He didn't even play in this Super Bowl. He was a scratch because the Chiefs looked at him like, okay, we're better without him than with him. And so everybody thought that the Chiefs, if you were going to go to the Super Bowl and win it, this was the year to do it because the Chiefs were weak. And yet, what does that say when the Chiefs still run the table in the playoffs and they go to the Super Bowl, rematch against the Niners, and they still win? So, looking ahead to next year, I mean, what do you say? The Chiefs, this was the year that everybody was looking at them like, this is the year to beat them, and nobody could beat them. So I could go the obvious route of, pick another team that I think is up and coming. And until a team beats the Chiefs convincingly in the playoffs, why would I pick any other team to upset them in the AFC playoffs? As much as I would love to say, oh, you've got the Bengals with Joe Burrow healthy. Joe Burrow, can he stay healthy? I don't know. I mean, you've got the Chargers with Jim Harbaugh. Will Jim Harbaugh have the Chargers ready to play by then? I don't know. They've got a lot of cap issues with the Chargers. You've got the Raiders with Antonio Pierce. They looked very good this year. Will they have a playoff caliber quarterback on their roster come playoff time? I don't know. They just released Jimmy Garoppolo, who was the only quarterback that they had with playoff experience due to steroid problems. I think it was he took an unauthorized medication. I don't know. I don't know the specifics of it, but you look at the AFC, which is typically very competitive, and none of them were able to beat the Chiefs. You could say the Ravens with Lamar Jackson. Chiefs already proved that this year. Lamar Jackson, with his best defense that he has had, could not beat Kansas City. Why would I pick anybody else to upset the Chiefs when nobody has proven, even with advantages, that they can beat the Chiefs? I don't know. Moving on to Major League Baseball, Commissioner Rob Manfred has officially announced that his current 5-year term will be his last, which means that he will be effectively leaving baseball office in 2029. Now, Commissioner Manfred is definitely not without controversy or criticism, as many baseball fans, including myself, have been very, very critical of him in the past. He has made a handful of incredibly controversial decisions as commissioner, and I mean, these are just a few. So he took over in 2015 for Bud Selig. And he was commissioner of baseball when he had to investigate the Houston Astros during their sign stealing scandal. And not only did he refuse to strip the Houston Astros of their championship title, but he also gave the players immunity in order for them to come forward and admit that they were cheating. So, no strip title, no players got suspended, and only 2 people, I believe, were banned from baseball, and I think it was only for like a year, and that was AJ Hinch and Alex Cora. I think Carlos Beltran got in trouble, but I'm not quite certain about that. And not on top of that, he was also the commissioner during the COVID years, and I don't quite blame him for the baseball controversies during COVID because I don't think a lot of people could have really done a much better job. I do know that the MLB Players Association and the league got into it in regards to how they were going to resume games and how to keep the players safe and all of that. And it created a really tense atmosphere in baseball. So, did he have a part to play in that? I mean, he's commissioner of baseball, so I'm sure he did. And finally, the one thing that he really is responsible for at this point in time are all of the rules that he has since implemented in baseball, because why not? His main goal has been to shorten games, which he has definitely done by implementing a pitch clock for pitchers, a ghost runner on second base in extra innings, which is basically whoever the last person out was goes to second base, and automatically you have a runner in scoring position. And he basically did that to completely eliminate hours long games. A lot of changes have been made to baseball that a lot of diehard baseball fans didn't really think that baseball needed. Do I think a pitch clock was needed? Yes and no. Do I think it needed to be shortened? Absolutely not. I still think that you should give pitchers time to strategize and allow them to play the game at their own pace. But at the same time, I do think that it was kind of needed as more of a guideline to, hey, you're still on a pitch clock timer, but you can still go at the pace that you need to play at. And so I think that it's kind of done a little bit more harm than good, but I mean he's gotten results, whatever kind of results he was looking for. He's gotten them so far. So it is what it is, but 5 more years of Rob Manfred could lead to more changes. And I mean, if you're baseball, do you really want that? I mean, it remains to be seen. That being said, one of the things that I've been most critical about Rob Manfred is his handling of the A's relocation saga going from Oakland to Las Vegas. Now, A's owner John Fisher has been having a hard time as of late, as he has yet to secure his part of the financing for the relocation and figure out where the team will play from 2025 to 2027 due to the A's lease with the Coliseum running out. Now, a couple days ago, Las Vegas Mayor Caroline Goodman, quote, suggested the best thing for the team might be to stay in Oakland. Where have I heard that before? Oh, wait, I said that. So, Oakland Mayor Sheng Tao brought the relocation plan into question, saying that this is not the first time Fisher has had difficulty completing a stadium deal. Quote, there was a thought that this plan he had in the beginning was viable, and now we're seeing that actually maybe the plan isn't viable. The question becomes, are the plans not viable, or is that the ownership's not viable? End quote. Also, quote, Tao mentioned that we are hopeful MLB will understand that having John Fisher sell the team or having John Fisher come back to the table with us to have a real discussion with us about whether it's Howard Terminal or the Coliseum is the best route for everyone, end quote. So, my bone to pick with Commissioner Rob Manfred is that he has yet to step in and basically force a sale of the team or basically call John Fisher's ownership into question. He has refused to do that. He has effectively told the people of Oakland that they don't matter, especially by not saying anything. And we have already known that John Fisher is one of the worst owners in baseball history, as he refuses to pay for players. And he has also lied about wanting to stay in Oakland because he wouldn't have been negotiating with Las Vegas if he was truly serious about staying. So the A's have officially rejected 3 potential ballpark sites in the Bay Area, most notably the Howard Terminal location, located roughly 20 miles of the team's current home. A site that Mayor Tao called, quote, shovel ready. They are ready and willing to build a stadium for the A's, and yet John Fisher has explicitly said that he is not interested. So, as of right now, the A's very well could be playing in a minor league stadium for the next couple of years, where they could very well play in either Salt Lake City or Sacramento. And apparently, there's also a rumor that they could very well seek to pair up with the San Francisco Giants in their ballpark. I do not see that happening. The Giants are part of the reason that the A's are in this mess, as they have blocked multiple sites, most notably in San Jose, from allowing the A's to develop there. So there's that. And the A's still have to have their Las Vegas stadium built by 2028, or there's a real possibility that this whole thing completely falls apart. So I don't know who's dropping the ball on this more. It could be John Fisher, or is it Rob Manfred? You tell me in the comments. But as far as I'm concerned, both of these people should leave baseball, and baseball would be much better for it. Moving on to the NBA, this is where every team currently sits at the All-Star break. Let me get out of the way here just a second. So, currently in the Western and Eastern conferences, it is the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Boston Celtics sitting as your 1 seeds. Boston having a much bigger advantage in the East than the Timberwolves have in the West. It is a very competitive Western Conference, as 1 through the 4 seed are separated by barely 3 games, whereas the Celtics in the East have a 6-game lead over the Cavaliers. Now, for me personally, the biggest surprises of the NBA season have to go to the Oklahoma City Thunder in the West and the New York Knicks of all teams in the East. Starting with the Thunder, I've been a major fan of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Even back when he was a Clipper, he very much impressed me. I think that he will be a MVP candidate for years to come. The OKC Thunder have the depth, they have the youth, and they have literally all of the draft capital that a team needs in order to be successful for years to come. I am very excited to see where the Oklahoma City Thunder will be at season's end, and I will be very interested to see where they will be in the next couple of years. And then in the East with the New York Knicks, Jalen Brunson has this team running on all cylinders. This New York Knicks team is definitely my surprise of the year, and I would be very surprised if Jalen Brunson is not an MVP candidate by this season's end, if he is not already. This Knicks team, to me, can cause a lot of trouble for teams like the Bucks heading into the playoffs. And if this Knicks team can overshoot the Bucks for the 3rd seed, having the Knicks up there would be an incredible win for a team that not a lot of people expected a lot from heading into this year. I can't wait to see where all of these teams are by the time the playoffs roll around. Moving on to women's collegiate basketball, we just got a record-breaking performance from none other than Caitlin Clark of the Iowa Hawkeyes, who just officially set the all-time women's scoring record for points in a career, beating Kelsey Plum's record, and it now belongs to Caitlin Clark all by herself, sitting at 3,569 total points for a career. And I believe she has a few games left still in her season. And the reason that is important is because she now only needs 98 points to eclipse Pete Maravich's all-time NCAA scoring record of 3,667 points. Now, what makes Pete Maravich's record very impressive is that he did that without a three-point line. Now, that being said, if Caitlin Clark can eclipse Pete Maravich's record, a record that has stood the test of time since 1970, this in and of itself would be one of the best sports stories in a very long while, if not one of the best stories in history. So it'll absolutely be something to see if she breaks this record, but even if she doesn't, just an overall absolute masterclass of a career from Caitlin Clark, and I really can't wait to see where she goes from here. That is all the time that we've got left for this episode of Short Circuit Sports. If you like this episode and you want to hear more, please subscribe, like this episode, turn on your notifications, the whole thing would really help me out, would also really help out the channel, and would love to talk to more of you guys on a week-to-week basis. If you guys agreed or disagreed with anything that I might have said in this video, please let me know down in the comments, and I will be sure to address them in the comments, debate you, or address them in future episodes. Or if I did not mention anything that you might have heard in the sports world that you would have liked me to talk about, also let me know down in the comments, and I will be sure to address those in future episodes. So with that being said, stay plugged in, stay charged up, and I will talk to you guys on the next episode of Short Circuit Sports. Have a good one.